Hey everybody, welcome back to our continuing discussion on acetylcholine. This time we're talking about acetylcholine structure and function. So we've already talked a bit about the role of acetylcholine in our somatic nervous system. So how it innervates our neuromuscular junctions and allows us to contract our muscles. But acetylcholine is also important for our autonomic nervous system. So as we've talked about previously in this course, our autonomic nervous system is important for a lot of that automatic stuff that happens with the regulation of our organs and smooth muscle. So here we have a little figure depicting the role of acetylcholine in the parasympathetic and the sympathetic branch of our autonomic nervous system. So as you likely recall, our autonomic nervous system is split into two branches: the parasympathetic branch, which is sort of our rest and digest branch for the calming down and conservation of energy, and our sympathetic branch, which is more associated with our fight or flight response, the mobilization of energy and utilization of these systems. So this signaling originates in our central nervous system. So we have our preganglionic neuron, preganglionic meaning before the ganglion. A ganglion is what we call a cluster of cell bodies located in our peripheral nervous system. So this is a cell body that originates before that ganglion and is projecting forward. So this is found in our central nervous system, and it branches out from our spinal cord and enters our peripheral nervous system that way, and it makes contact with its ganglion. So our preganglionic neuron will release acetylcholine onto our ganglionic neuron. Our parasympathetic ganglia are found, generally speaking, in the general region of the target organ. So if we're talking about your heart, for example, our parasympathetic ganglion is going to be located very near to the heart. And from there, this ganglionic neuron will release acetylcholine onto its target organ. So down here we have our sympathetic branch, which is going to do something similar. It's going to release acetylcholine onto its ganglionic neuron, so the sympathetic ganglion. Sympathetic ganglion are actually found really close to the spinal cord in a structure called the sympathetic ganglion chain, which is just a big, what it sounds like, chain of groups of cell bodies that runs near the spinal cord. From there, we have processes coming out from these ganglion neurons that will snake all the way over to their target organ, and these release norepinephrine. So whereas our parasympathetic system, the ganglionic neurons are receiving acetylcholine, our sympathetic ganglion are releasing norepinephrine. Okay, so let's talk about some major acetylcholine signaling hotspots in our central nervous system. Acetylcholine is a little bit different from other systems that we've talked about, like dopamine and norepinephrine, that have much more concentrated groups of cell bodies. We see acetylcholine in a number of different places throughout the brain, serving different functions. So first off, let's talk about these striatum interneurons. So if you recall, interneurons are basically just responsible for communication within a contained region. Right, so interneurons here are going to be doing signaling within the striatum, whereas projection neurons are neurons that leave the site of their cell body basically and project somewhere else in the brain. So if projection neurons are projecting to somewhere else, interneurons are not. They are doing local communication within a little circuit here. So we have these striatum interneurons that release acetylcholine, and they play an important role in regulating movement in balance with our dopamine signaling. So we talked already about how dopamine, especially the nigrostriatal pathway, is important for our voluntary movement. Acetylcholine also plays a role in that circuit. In fact, anticholinergics are sometimes prescribed early on in Parkinson's disease as a way of managing the imbalance of that circuit. Next up, we have our basal forebrain cholinergic system located down here. These have rich inputs to the cerebral cortex, the hippocampus, and other limbic structures, so they're projecting all over the place into our cerebral cortex and our limbic system. So this is primarily associated with a sustained attention. So acetylcholine levels are important for vigilance and sustained attention. Okay, finally we have acetylcholine producing neurons located here within the dorsolateral pons. The role of these is that they primarily excite midbrain dopamine producing neurons via postsynaptic nicotinic receptors. So there are nicotinic receptors located on these midbrain dopamine neurons, and this population here has an excitatory effect on that population. This is, of course, involved in the reinforcing effects of nicotine, as you might imagine, right? Exciting a population of dopamine neurons within the midbrain is going to help with the sensation of reinforcement. But we will hit that in much greater detail when we talk about nicotine later on in this course. We also have projections from this region to the thalamus and the brainstem. These are primarily important for behavioral arousal, sensory processing, and REM sleep initiation. So this is sort of like a very basic forebrain level or a hindbrain level of remaining vigilant, and it also has some interaction with our sleep circuit. Okay, that's it for the beginning of our structure and function. Next, we're going to be talking about acetylcholine receptors.